Award-winning entertainer Etienne was in town today, wowing Winnipeg school kids at Pantages Playhouse Theatre.
Internationally recognized singer and performer Etienne was in Thunder Bay as special guest of the Lakehead Public Schools to boost the board's French language curriculum and give the kids a French lesson they soon won't forget.
They were treated instead to a concert that asked the question, Pourquoi français?
Well, he may be a French teacher in Stratford, but to his devoted fans around the world, he's known as Etienne, the rock star who teaches French with an edge.
Now, what makes his music so unique is that while kids are being entertained, they're also learning literacy and language skills in English, French, and Spanish.
The international star combines school curriculums with trendy dance moves and kid-friendly beats to make learning basic French easy and fun. And it seems to be working.
It's a unique blend of education and entertainment that seems to sink in.
Stephen Langlois, better known as Etienne, helps youngsters around the world learn French through song and dance.
Etienne! Etienne! Etienne!
No one will ever really know how many millions of French students have been inspired by his music. He helped all of us French teachers ignite a passion and keep that flame going for years. His music is long-lasting and forever, and the kids respond to it.
All right. So, gonna go into storage here. And I think this is where the box is. It's somewhere in here. Yeah, it's right here. Ugh. That's it. This this here represents the total sum collection of memorabilia that I have. I just never made a habit of actually hanging on to anything at all. So let's see what we have here. I'll just take some of this out here. I know there's a lot in this box. Okay, a typical Etienne concert probably can be described in one word, and that is probably loud.
My two daughters had been to his concerts when they were younger. I heard his concerts were kind of mellow and relaxing and quite easy on the senses.
Come down, see some people.
Nah. I heard and I saw that Etienne concerts were exciting, loud, highly energized, with lots of students having a great time singing and screaming and learning French through music.
We did manage to get him over to New Zealand, where he did a tour of the country. I think he's reminded me it was about 17 concerts that we did in our tiny little country of 3 million people, 4 million people at the time. And we had students come from all over the country into the different regions, into the different spaces that we could find. And he just blasted them with his enthusiasm and got them up dancing in the aisles, realising that you could actually have fun while you were enjoying French. So I think it was the fact that the sheer exuberance of the performance really got them motivated.
I know there's a lot in this box here. This is R&R Production. So this is the studio that I recorded the first ATN album at with $500 in my pocket. I guess we got a free hat when you record there. I don't know, but that's where I have this from. Gosh, this is an old poster from the Chez Moi album. You look at the website back then, it's like forever long because that was before, I guess, we had our own little ATN website or anything like that.
In concert, it's really a powerful thing to see ATN connect with the students. Each concert goer feels valued. He reaches every person. They go crazy. They jump, they sing, they shout, and they, most of all, speak and sing in French. And I think there were also some life lessons that ATN wanted them to learn. Whatever your passion may be, you should follow it. And, if you find yourself isolated or in a dark place, music is a way to connect with other people once again. So it was a very healthy and productive message. One of my favorite things as one of the organizers of the concerts on my end, the school end, was that ATN was so professional. He probably came to Franklin Regional maybe 8 or 9 times. He came, he fulfilled everything, and we did the same on our end. It was such a positive relationship, and that's how he still is.
And I think early on I tried to collect some stuff, but it just became a thing where we couldn't keep up. So this year was early on. I think I would collect different fan letters that, would be sent to ATN because I thought it was really, really cool. I'd go do a concert and come back and, we'd have like fan mail waiting, and there's like old pictures you can see from press pictures. This is probably one of my very first concerts in 94, 95.
In my teaching, I was frequently labeled an innovative thinker, so I was thrilled when I discovered some CDs and videos by a guy named ATN, which were quite out of the box themselves. Through his performances, students were able to learn and retain grammar in an enjoyable way. Now, as an educator, I understood that information was more quickly and efficiently stored in long-term memory if it was emotionally driven, especially if there were zany or unanticipated elements incorporated in the learning. Since I was also a big advocate of varying students' language learning activities to include all of the intelligences that Howard Gardner has identified in his multiple intelligences theory, using ATN songs, it was a perfect way to have activities that catered to musical rhythmic, verbal linguistic, spatial visual, and bodily kinesthetic learners. We'd learn his songs as a class, and then I'd hook up a karaoke machine for the students who do oral imitations as their oral quizzes. Students would actually compete to be the first to come to the front of the room. I also marveled when I witnessed my students traipsing down the school hallways, singing his tunes, not truly registering that those lyrics were verb conjugations.
I love seeing the reaction of the teachers at the concerts because they always have these big smiles on their faces. And I think it's because the concerts basically are a huge validation, like the reaction of the students and hearing thousands of kids singing and screaming and dancing and having a great time is a validation of all the hard work that they do. And some teachers, I mean, they get really excited and they're up dancing and singing and stuff like that, and that's fantastic because the students feed off of that when they see that their teachers are ready to just let loose, have fun. Memories, just amazing memories. And none of this would be possible without the students and without the teachers. I mean, none of this would be possible. Right? None of this would be possible without all the teachers. No French teachers, no Etienne, right? No Spanish teachers, no Etienne, right? Because when I started doing the conferences in the United States, and French teachers would getting excited about the music, the Spanish teachers came over to me and they go, "You have to do this for us too." And at first I was like, "No, I can't do Spanish." So what we did was, I said, "Okay, fine." So we found a young Spanish artist who's going to do the Etienne version type thing in Spanish. Then comes time, we booked the recording studio, we had everything ready, the producer, everything, and the guy bailed. He bailed. So there we are, we had the studio booked, and we had some teachers, we had a translator, we had no, it's not a translator, sorry. We had teachers, we had some native Spanish speakers, and went to the studio and we were like, "Okay, what are we going to do?" And they were like, "You do it, Steve, you can do it." And I'm like, "Are you serious? I don't know about that." But I did. And where was it? I was tossing these around. And this was the first album, Educo Rock Español. And this was me doing my best Spanish. But I tell you what, I've gotten a lot of compliments about this Spanish. And I have to thank Rosa, because there was a lady at a resort in Cuba that I took Spanish lessons from. And she really, really helped me with my pronunciation and understanding the Spanish language.
I had the opportunity to take my students to one of Etienne's concerts in Espanol, and it was so energizing. There was an entire auditorium full of teenagers from all over the city, excited. It was interactive. He included the kids in the show. The kids were singing on the way to the show, on the way back from the show. During the show, the kids from all these different schools were getting into it, dancing. It was so much fun. They had the best time, and it was great to see kids excited about learning Spanish.
But that's how it happened, and then eventually, because of the success of the first Spanish album, then the second one, Me Gusta, had to be done. So, and since then I've done concert tours in Spanish and everything like that. So a lot of people know me as a French artist, but I also do the Spanish as well.
It doesn't matter what level of French you're teaching. It's wonderful songs that your students can use. Plus they're high energy and students love that. And it's a great way, even if you don't go to a concert, to just play the CD and let your students rock out to it in class.
The songs are so simple. I often get asked to go to areas like remote areas all over the place where people are asking me to do concerts for students who have yet to start taking French or Spanish. So they haven't had one class at all. And I'm kind of their introduction to the French language. And it's really cool because the songs are so simple. I just have to explain 10 seconds before a song, okay, when you hear the chorus, here's what we do this. I have the crowd practice it once, and then we just hit the music, and then we perform it, and the students are singing it like as if they've been hearing this music all their lives. So the fact that we always keep the songs very simple, very repetitive, all the songs have a hook to them, and they're teaching something specific, means that it's very easy to sing along. So all the concerts are basically the same no matter where we go. All over the world, the reaction is exactly the same.
Our French teacher always took the kids to see an Etienne concert, so I got to go to my first one, and I remember being on the bus, and my students were at the back of the bus, and they were just going crazy, singing and chanting the lyrics to the song Avoir, and they're just like, "Nous avons, vous avez, il, ont." And I'm, as a teacher, I'm trying to keep the kids all calm. And then I thought, you know what? Just let them go. They were having so much fun. They were singing it like you're going to see, Paul McCartney or something. It was just amazing. So that was my first experience, and the kids just absolutely adored him. And I was like, wow, I'm a fan.
I've also seen him perform as Etienne, and I'm always just absolutely blown away by his ability to reach out to those students, to engage them with his music, and to clearly help them to enjoy learning French.
A lot of people ask me about Justin Bieber because they see, maybe they've seen a YouTube video with him singing one of my songs. He sang the song Avoir deux, and Him singing that song is all over YouTube.
G-A-I-2-A-A-S, il a, elle a, nous avons, vous avez, il et elle, O-N-T.
So a lot of people ask me, do you know Justin Bieber, or have you worked with him, or did you ask him to do that or whatever? The fact is that I found out about Justin singing that song pretty much the way everybody else did, just through word of mouth. One day I was teaching and I had a student come into my classroom and say, "Hey sir, what's it like to have Justin Bieber being a fan of yours?" And I'm like, "I'm sorry, what are you talking about?" And she says, "Justin Bieber sings your songs on YouTube." And I'm like, "What are you talking about? No, he doesn't." And she goes, "Yeah, I was just watching it like a bunch of times last night." And I said, "Okay, Justin Bieber does not sing any of my songs. I've never heard of this." And she goes, "Yeah, no, look it up." And I said, actually, the funny thing is, I said to her, because she was about to write a quiz, and I said, "If Justin Bieber is singing one of my songs on YouTube, you automatically get perfect on this quiz." And she just looked at me really, really deadpan and just went, "All right, you can give me perfect, but he does sing the song. Go ahead."
Justin Bieber isn't the only musician to be inspired by Etienne. During elementary school, I can still remember having to sit through boring class after boring class with uninspired material and teachers that didn't really care about how to apply it. Something I would always look forward to, and not just me, but all of my classmates as well, we would all look forward to going to French class and being able to use the Etienne CDs and having to listen. And when you think about it, it's very strange because, little did we know we were conjugating verbs and learning how to apply these concepts that normally would just be read out of a book, but we were more than happy, so thrilled to listen to the Etienne music and learn doing so.
So, Children's Fest, here's some tour dates from back in 2002, 2003, when I was touring for the C'est Le Temps album. That was kind of cool. Okay. This is neat. Now this poster actually appears in one of, you'll see it in one of the music videos from the Documentaire DVD, or back then it was a VHS tape. But this was from a show, May 6, 1999, Centennial Hall. It was sold out. And it was neat because I remember my wife went there, and she was like 8.5 months pregnant with our son Nathan, because he was born May 20th, 1999. So that's kind of cool. Just different things, world tour. Here's French stock. Now I was telling you about French stock. There's Roland Bibot. There's Jaco, who I mentioned earlier, and you can see the different artists that came out. It wasn't just musicians, there was a magician, but artists from all over, and it was a great festival, a great way to celebrate French together through French stock.
I've been exposed to the musical side of my dad from a very young age. Ever since I was a kid, I would hear my dad's songs at home, hear him talking about concerts. He was in our classroom, and it's kind of funny because at the time it was kind of embarrassing, honestly, to hear my dad's songs played in class, and having to learn grammar from my dad's songs. But once I reached the age of 17, 18, and I started playing shows with my dad and seeing the impact that it had on kids, like young and old of all ages, and even university, there would be kids singing my dad's songs in French class to help them remember verbs for university exams. I kid you not, man. And just seeing the impact that had on so many people, and seeing how much fun the kids are having to learning French and educating themselves, it just made me feel so proud of what my dad has accomplished, and I feel so grateful to be a part of it now as an 8th Adet.
And the songs were great. They were very, very catchy songs. The students, you can't fool them. If they don't like the song, they're not going to participate. Well, they participated, let me tell you. If you ever saw 3,000 to 5,000 students jumping up and down and screaming every song about it, and screaming all the lyrics. Take French. I heard you ask, and then tourne, la droite, tourne, and they all do it, and they are all over the place. Sorry, I got excited. Okay, that's what the concerts do to you. They're very, very energized. They're very a little loud. They're loud, but sometimes you have to be loud to get through to your students.
His live shows full of energy. It's amazing to see. Not only are the shows full of energy, they're full. Which is the best of both worlds. But it's great to see the kids, first of all, again, getting some learning and getting some education, but fun. It's fun. And I would tend to believe that, you would tend to learn more because it's not... It's fun. You want to do it. You want to dance. You want to sing. You want to, and then, and in that process, of course, by singing these lyrics and taking the courses, you do both. But it's what a perfect world.
The songs and music is a great way to learn French as a second language, and it's a great way to reinforce what they've learned. And Etienne makes it so that it's good for the intermediate kids as well. That's why I brought my grade 7 kids, is because it's not little kiddie music. It's fun to dance to, and it's for the older kids.
When I first met Etienne, alias Stephen Langlois, at an ACTFL conference, I was like a giggly teen meeting their favorite pop star. I knew we had to get him to Alaska, and hundreds of Anchorage School District middle and senior high school students rocked to French and Spanish grammar concerts. And I'll never forget the 7 male high school students who triumphantly lifted their shirts and displayed his initials painted across their chests at the concert finale. Students were high energy. There was lots of language going into their long-term memories.
We have, this is from the first album, Etienne, which was on cassette, okay? We later put it on CD, and that was the thing, the Chez Moi album that I had here. This was the second one. When this came out, we put this on CD, and that was revolutionary in 1995 because most albums were still on cassette. Most teachers didn't even know how to use a CD, there was no CD players, so it was really interesting that we made that choice. So, got a bunch of different flyers. I don't know what else. More like fan letters. Lyrics from when we wrote Français, Français. Oh my gosh. I honestly... So just different collection of... I don't even know what's in here. That's the problem. Pictures of students, and this is just crazy. It's crazy, the memories. Here's when I guess I did a visit back in Windsor. This is probably the Capitol Theater. I think it's the Capitol Theater in Windsor. Yeah, look at that. That's crazy. Having students dance on stage, that is the best part. Performing, and then schools can sign up for specific songs that they like, and they can dance on stage, and sure makes me look good, but the kids have a great time dancing on stage and seeing their classmates performing, in front of like thousands of people on the lights. That's pretty cool.
A French Energizer Bunny, involving the audience, getting the kids involved, and he just has made such an impact on French throughout the world, really. I didn't even realize that he had been as far as Australia, but I knew in Canada and the States for sure he had done so many wonderful things.
So a lot of strange things will happen when you do many concerts, and so some of the stories that stick out. One is the famous t-shirt incident that happened in Virginia. I was doing this awesome show in Richmond, Virginia, and a student threw their T-shirt from the balcony down. I was performing in the aisle, and I was doing a song called Le Bleu de tes yeux, which is a song where I have the students point out where their teachers are, because it's dark in the audience, right? So they point out where the teachers are, and I sing this 90s boy band love song that I made called Le Bleu de tes yeux to teachers. And I'm down there, and I'm singing this song to a teacher. The students found where the teacher was hiding, and I went to turn, and I went to just sing a high note, and I raised up my finger like this. And as soon as I raised up my finger, this T-shirt that got thrown from the balcony came and wrapped around my finger as I was singing. And I looked down and I looked up and I raised it back up, and everybody went crazy. It was really, really weird. And immediately the next day there was like 3 different film versions from cell phones, different angles of that famous T-shirt incident. I think there's 1 or 2 that's probably still up on YouTube, but that was really, really funny because it's pitch dark, so I don't know, right? I just raise my finger and this thing catches around my finger, and I look and it's somebody's T-shirt. So it was really weird.
For us in our small area here in Grand Prairie, we can see how it touches all 3 programs of French, so core, immersion, and francophone. So, if it has that kind of impact on a small area, I can only imagine the global impact that Etienne would have.
One of my previous positions was as the coordinator of modern languages and the arts for the London District Catholic School Board, and I can recall very vividly meeting Stephen Etienne at that time, and I believe I even emceed one of his concerts at Centennial Hall, and recall well the passion that he created and the excitement among students with his high energy performances. Many of us, myself included, as language educators, have long used music to teach language, and I can recall at the beginning of my career using some classic French songs like Ne me quitte pas to introduce certain language conventions. What Etienne did, I think with simple lyrics but lots of energy, was take that time-tested technique to a whole new level and have students enjoy learning about the language, sometimes without even realizing in the repetition of the lyrics that they were reinforcing language structures. I also think that our goal as language teachers is certainly to facilitate communication, to help students be able to communicate in a second language, an additional language, in this case French, about things that are of interest to them, to solve problems that they encounter in their lives. But we also have to remember that one of our goals is to create enjoyment and a passion to go on and learn that language. And I think that's exactly what Etienne does with his music and with his high energy performances, and what he continues to do for students.
And I'm fairly positive that an Etienne concert was the first concert that I've ever been to, like the first. And let me tell you, I can still remember the experience very vividly. There's just something about the raw energy that he brings, and all while learning is happening. That's the beauty of it. It's a very inspirational thing.
They were all just having a fantastic time, and you don't really understand the impact that Etienne has on the French language until you see that many students singing and dancing and thoroughly engaged in a concert in French, until you can see and hear and understand the energy that these students have at a concert. It's absolutely incredible.
The entire reason that Etienne has any measure of popularity, let's say, is because of the French teachers. It's that connection and the idea of everybody working together.
And I teach French in New Zealand. Seeing the fun and the potential from his music, our school then decided to take our Year 10 students to his concert in Wellington, and they all really loved being able to sing along with Etienne and other students learning French.
So no matter, and this is the thing, no matter where I'm at, whether I'm here in Windsor, Ontario, back home, which is always fun, or whether I'm far away somewhere in Australia or wherever it may be, the crowd reaction is exactly the same because of the French teachers.
In 2007, Etienne came to Western Australia, and he did some concerts in Perth, the capital of Western Australia, but he also came to a small country town called Quairading, which is about 2.5 hours from Perth, and it was amazing for country French students to travel to Quairading, and there were students from 5 different schools, and Etienne rocked the Quairading Town Hall, and my students just loved it. But I could not believe that Etienne travelled from Canada to WA and then from Perth all the way to Quairading. We had the best concert, and we talked about it for years. And the concert with Etienne was definitely one of the highlights of my French teaching career.
It's that whole collective effort by the French teachers and myself and the students that makes it so wonderful. And I feel very blessed that I get to be a part of that. I get to be a little part of their lessons once in a while in their classroom. It's absolutely fantastic. And then it culminates when we get to come together for a concert like these ones.
ATN fans took in the concert. The goal is to get kids interested in French now so they can become bilingual adults in the future.
We figure this is a good way to get kids motivated to stay in French, and the longer they stay in, the more they learn and the more opportunities they'll have in their life for travel and further studies.
The Windsor-based performer signed autographs and took pictures with adoring fans before leaving town.
So I like to go that half an hour basically before the show, and I go into the audience and I'll sign autographs and meet the students. It's my chance to talk to them, let them know that I'm just a real person like them, ready to have some fun. But I like that opportunity to meet with the students, to get to know what songs that they like, what songs they want to hear, and even answer questions that students might have. It's kind of like a mini autograph and interview session that half an hour before a show.
What take French? I heard you ask. Well, sit back and relate as I kick your aspirations into gear. You got nothing to fear when you learn a second language. Opportunities appear. I know.
Another question that I get asked often is about the song Pourquoi Take French. Is it biographically accurate? Because there is a famous line in that song.
He nearly flipped his lid. I tell you what I did. I walked up to her and said bonjour, and now we got 3 kids. Bounce, dance, bounce, dance.
I want to set the record straight that the song is actually a fictitious song. It's made up. I only have 2 kids, but the song is just designed to sort of make a point about the benefits of learning French and how you can meet people, and you could possibly fall in love, and you could meet the person of your dreams, and you could end up having 3 kids with them just because of the fact that you were learning French or another language. So just to put the rumors aside, that song is not based on my life, which sometimes when I tell people that, they're actually disappointed. I'm not sure why, but so that's the truth about Pourquoi Take French.
200 million people speak French in this world, in more than 50 different countries. That's lots of boys and girls. French is the official language of UN and NATO.
So different newspaper articles from BC and from literally all over the world, actually. Old photos. Oh wow. Yeah, this is some pretty old stuff. This is cool. This was my very first concert. And I guess the press was there, I didn't know. So they thought probably a local newspaper, I guess, took a picture of that. And February 23rd, 1994. Wow. And there is a young Etienne up there. And interestingly enough, after this show, I remember asking a principal and saying, because the students loved the show and the teachers were really excited. They said they had a great time. They thought it was fantastic. And I asked the principal, I said, do you think this is something that other schools would want? Do you think doing rock shows in schools, do you think that's a cool idea? And he turned to me and he says, that would never work. Nobody would ever want that.
I've also seen him perform as Etienne, and I'm always just absolutely blown away by his ability to reach out to those students, to engage them with his music, and to clearly help them to enjoy learning French.
Ultimately, I just hope that the music is able to help them in some way, essentially. and give them a taste of how much fun the French language and culture can be.
So I met Steve. I was probably about 14 years old, and one thing I did notice, it was I met him at church, and he was just very he was one of those people that just would come right up to you and start talking, and there was an instant friendship right at that the first day I met him. It seems like he makes a very good first impression as well. He just really came off as a caring individual, and so I really just hit it off right away, and from that moment on we were really close friends.
Steve and I have known each other since we've been young, and I just remember we'd see each other all the time at church, and he'd always be trying out new lyrics on us and beatboxing, and it was just very evident early on that he was very talented and he was very driven, and he had a style all to his own that he was developing, which was really cool.
So as a young boy, I did have a dream. I wanted to be the next big Christian heavy metal lead singer. That was my dream growing up. And what's kind of funny is how my career of ATN has actually paralleled that. And I'll try to explain this as best I can. So I looked up to bands like Striper, for example, who basically went out there and they just played heavy metal, rock and roll music, and they just had a positive message. And that's kind of what I get to do with ATN, is I get to do the kind of music that I like. I do hard rock, rap, any styles of music, and it's loud or aggressive or just generally loud.
One unique moment that I remember is we were waiting for our parents to finish up, and there was this poster on the wall. And so I read it out loud, and Steve listened to it, and it said, "Build bridges instead of walls, and you will have a friend." And Steve says, "No, this is how you say it. Build bridges instead of walls." And I went, "No, this is how you say it." We ended up having this competition, who can say it better. We went through it like 25 times. And so I was just thinking, not only was he talented lyrically, but he already was mindful about having the right phrasing and the right cadence in his voice, and I think that served him really well.
I started out when I was really young at a school called Georges Vanier in Windsor, but then my parents moved and I ended up having to be placed in an English-speaking school. And fortunately, my French teacher, I had the same French teacher for 5 years. Her name was Madame Saint-Pierre, right from grade 4 right through grade 8. And she really encouraged me and helped nurture my pride of being French.
I'll always call him Stephen. Stephen was a student of mine in the French program at Belle River Public School years and years ago, the FSL program. He was very, very animated and very curious and had that real zest for learning. I remember him meeting me in the hall outside of the French classroom and wanting to speak French with me. I remember him outside at recess when I had yard duty coming up and trying to use his French. He was a very active student in the classroom and really enjoyed the French language. I really am proud of the hard work he's done and how he's made French fun learning for all other students in the world.
And we would speak French all the time, and she would encourage me, and it was fantastic. It made me very proud to be French, to be Métis, to be able to practice and be able to carry on the French language with my own mime and family members. She also encouraged me after grade 8 to actually go back into the French stream. She wanted me to go to La Sarre, was the name of the French high school. So she was an influential part of the whole ATN story, really, when I look back.
One really good memory I have with Steve is it was Steve and our friend Wayne, who's since passed away, actually. And we had a little band called the Mountain Dudes. The Mountain Dudes! Of course, we have to use diet this time because we're all a little fatter now, but here we are at the reunion session. Here's Steve. Doesn't he look lovely? And Wayne, and of course me. Hey Wayne, go for it! Anything! Go for it! Look at him fly! Yeah. was just the three of us. We'd get together and play a little bit. But I remember one night we were just having a lot of fun.
It's currently tipping at speed 1, 2, 3, 4.
Oh, you want drums?
Sure.
Okay, sorry.
Got the drums.
Ready? And you gotta start right away because it goes. Ready?
Yeah.
3, 4. And we used to jam, we used to do songs, mostly rock or metal.
And we ended up coming up with the song that I sang to my wife at my wedding reception.
Right now we're going through the...
Those were fun times.
I had a friend, Gary McLean, and he had a band, and they're doing quite well, and in the area, and they were starting to, really make a serious attempt to play, and they lost their singer. And so first thing, as soon as he told me that, I thought immediately of Steve. Like, I knew nobody with a better voice than Steve. And so I got them in touch together, and they auditioned him, and they loved him. They just thought it was a great fit for him, and that's when he started singing with them.
I don't think I saw maybe myself like maybe Larry did at that time. So it was kind of cool. So I went and I auditioned for that band, and they had me join the band there, and I became a singer for the band, and that was my first experience with a real rock band. What was cool about that was that I was in high school and the rest of the guys were in university, so I learned a lot from that experience of playing in that band.
I think with Steve they had a more rockier sound, and their band style was more like Whiteheart was their big. That's who they loved the most and kind of emulated. And so what Steve brought to that was that rocky voice that really fit and meshed with their style.
Now, I was mentioning before, I was telling you about the first band I was in that Larry had me audition for, and the band was called Cypress. There's a couple of things. So this is way from back, check this out, 1988. Our band was called Cypress, so we were the special guests there. We weren't the big band, but that was kind of cool. And then there's another ticket stub from a concert that we did. There was an artist called Rick Pichet, and there is with Cypress, so we opened up for them. The big $3 for this ticket to come see us perform back in the day. So that's kind of cool.
One of the early assignments in my course was to create an activity that would reinforce one of the 4 skills. Steve chose the listening skill, and he wrote a song and presented it to the class. And as he sang, I was amazed at his musical talent and the way that he was able to engage his listeners and really help them to learn French.
And Etienne's music was definitely very inspirational and had a massive effect on me. I mean, still to this day, there are multiple verbs that I can still conjugate without even thinking about it because of Etienne's music.
So people ask, where does the name Etienne come from? It's a really interesting story because I had written a couple songs in Teachers College, and I was given a supply contract. I was going to teach from September through February in Strathroy, Ontario, at a school called Southdale Public School. And I looked for some songs out at different teacher bookstores and things like that, and I couldn't find any music that would motivate students, particularly the grade 7s and 8s. So what I did was when I started teaching, I started making up a couple more of my own songs, and I didn't even let the students know it was me that was performing these songs, but songs to help my students learn French. And when January rolled around, I asked Elaine Marentet, who was the French consultant of the board, if I could address the French teachers at the next French teacher meeting. Because back then, French teachers, or teachers in general, they had to find their own supply teachers if they were going to be absent. So the meeting came around, and I decided I was going to share 2 songs that I had written for my students, just to show them that I knew what I was doing, and tell them a little bit of what I do in the French classroom, so that maybe they would call me so that I could actually get some money so I could eat and survive. So I played the songs, and immediately people weren't asking me if I could be their supply teacher. They were asking actually about the songs, which was not my purpose. They're asking if they could get copies, and Elaine Marentet goes, "Oh my gosh, it's Etienne," she blurted out.
I was a former learning coordinator in the Thames Valley District School Board, and that's where I first met Stephen. And I had introduced him to the other teachers as Etienne, and that name just stuck. I thought he should have a single name. As a rapper, you usually have to have just one name. So I had called him Etienne at the meeting. And he went on to so many great things, preparing so many wonderful concerts for kids, and spread the word of enjoying learning French.
And she simply took my name, Stephen, and just translated it into French. What ended up happening was that name ended up sticking because I did share the music. I made copies for the teachers, but then other teachers started finding out about it, and boards from across Ontario started phoning me, asking me for copies of these songs that I had written. And so I literally had to start making copies of them on cassette tapes, and it was actually getting embarrassing because entire boards were buying it for all the French teachers. And so that summer I had to make a decision. Am I going to do this music thing, or am I going to concentrate on what I'm supposed to be, which is a teacher? And that's what I did. I had $500 to my name, and I used every penny of it, made my first album, which was self-titled as Etienne, and the rest is history.
I've performed with Etienne for the last 9 years, I think, and we've performed on large stages, in arenas, in beautiful theaters. I want to say thanks to Etienne for allowing me to do this with him. It was quite the experience for me to play for thousands of students at a time. Watching the concerts from the stage is a totally different perspective.
Working with Roland Bibot is a lot of fun. I actually ran into him. The first time I met him was probably in 1994. I had the new album out, and my first album, and right in the fall there was a little teachers conference going on back in Windsor. I wasn't living in Windsor at the time, but we got to go back, and they asked Roland to perform at this teachers conference, and they asked me to perform as well. And that was the first time that I met him. And years later, when we decided to put together French Talk and have artists from all over singing French songs and to spread a love for language and culture, Roland was one of the first people that I thought of, and I reached out to him, and he came and started playing with us at these festivals, and we just developed a friendship, and we started working together. And then I started to have him come with me on my tours, the large venue tours all over Canada, the United States. And he would play as my guitarist, and we would sing songs together. And then we eventually did a couple projects together. We did Français, and we did Chantons les classiques. But it's great working with Roland because Roland and I are completely different. Whereas I'm very intense, and just intense is a very good word, perfectionist, whether it's in the studio or whatever, very type A. Roland is very laid back, and it's perfect for me because it keeps me keeps me relaxed and helps me focus on the fact that we're having fun, and we should be having fun.
A good time is always had at an Etienne concert, I think, anyway. And by the reaction of the crowd that I saw from the stage, the feelings were mutual. The students and teachers attending would always participate loudly and clearly, and always applaud loudly and clearly.
Speaking of Roland, here's an old poster from our first collaboration together called Français Français.
Made you feel really good. Made me feel like a rock star, really, alongside of Etienne. And after the shows, the autograph seekers, it was just to say hello. The students would line up to high five us, and it's quite an experience for me. I've had a little bit of experience with it, but not at that level, not at the level that Etienne brought it to.
One of my favorite Roland stories, and he'll kill me, so you can't include this in the documentary. He'd kill me if you knew that I told you the story. Was one time I remember we were driving, heading out to a show, and I remember I told him, I said, "Oh, just so you know, the school that's going to be seated in the front, they're a school for blind students, so they'll be seated in the front. So I just wanted to let you know ahead of time, Roland, so that if you're performing, and if we're performing and maybe not getting the same kind of reaction that you might out of other students, I don't know how they're going to react. Just so you know that they're from a school for the blind." And so we keep driving, and about 20 minutes later, he almost hits on the brakes, and he goes, "Wait a minute, what?" And wait, what? And he goes, "If they're students from a school from the blind, how are they going to hear our music? How are they going to hear us?" And I just shook my head and I said, "Roland, they're blind. They're not deaf." And he's like, "Oh, right." So, but that's Roland, man. That's Roland in a nutshell. He's so laid back. He's so cool. It's just fun to be with him.
When I started working with Etienne, I remember when he came into the studio, he was very excited, very passionate, and very organized. He really had a clear vision as to what it was he was trying to accomplish. And from an engineer-producer standpoint, that made things roll along considerably faster. As opposed to, well, try this, try that, spending a few hours putting some drums and bass and a loop or, a sound together or whatever the case may be. And then, wait until the artist would then say, "Oh, I don't like it, I don't know why, blah, blah, blah." Etienne was the complete opposite. He knew right away. I'd start working on a program, something. "No, I'm hearing more of a backbeat or, a bigger bass or a wah-wah on it or, whatever." And again, from my particular standpoint, that made everything considerably faster because he knew what he wanted. So it was easier for me to capture that and wrap it up as fast as possible.
Of course, like as time went on, the budgets got bigger, and I was able to work with different producers. The second album that I did for Chez Moi, I worked with a producer, a really cool guy named Andy Flock, and he's out of Stratford. And that was a lot of fun. But again, it's not like I had a big budget or anything like that. And I remember we produced that album in the winter, and I was getting like winter rates, but it was like freezing in the studio. We had the floor heaters going, but I absolutely had an amazing time doing that album. And that album, Chez Moi, was actually the one that really went huge internationally. And from there, I was able to actually have the time and the budgets to do actually full production type of albums. And that's when I started working with Jay Reel.
Brilliant. It's brilliant how to put your educational teachings and to make it fun for the kids. The fact that the teaching is done in raps or different song verses or whatever the case. And when you look at some of the playback footage of some of the concerts, and I've talked to other teachers that have been to the concerts, and it's great to see the kids singing along and learning at the same time. I mean, what a better way to learn. Like, it should be fun, right?
And you can see all these from all over the world, all these different articles. I don't even know where they're from, but New Zealand, Australia. And then eventually the theater shows ended up having to be arena shows where we'd have 4,000 or 5,000. We've had as many as over 7,000 booked for a show. It's crazy. So yeah. So this is like a little, I guess, a treasure chest of different articles and yeah, just from all over the place. Quantic French, I don't even know.
Very passionate. He was very passionate about the education part, and the music. It was an equal passion. I mean, and how awesome to be able to express first of all, your emotions and your thoughts, and now your teachings, but in a musical art form, which, would fulfill his heart, and it would fulfill the heart of the student as well. I mean, I can't think of a better way to learn music. I wish we could have had more singing ABCs.
And Jay is a well-respected musician. He's known throughout Nashville, all over actually. And I worked on probably my next 5 albums with Jay. And working with somebody of that quality just brings your music to a whole different level. And I learned so much from working with him because not only would I work with him as a producer, but I would, run different ideas musically by him.
Etienne, yeah, when he first came in, he was very, again, very fun, very passionate, and serious at the same time. When it was time to do work, we did work, and when it was time to laugh and have some jokes, we'd do so. But again, the bottom line was he was very in control of all the aspects of his particular career. A lot of other artists leave a lot of decision making to their producer or record company or management or but not Etienne. No, he was very hands-on right from the get-go. He knew exactly what he wanted, and he knew exactly how to get it, which I thought was awesome.
Yeah. Of course, back then this was called the Cleary Auditorium. That was the name for it, not the Chrysler Theater as it is today. But I remember my parents, they took me here to see the Windsor Symphony play, and this place was full. Of course, when I was 8 years old, I thought this thing was the size of a stadium. We were sitting right there, right in the middle. And I remember the entire audience was dark. I couldn't make out a face or a head. But the light was cascading here from the stage, and it was really, really bright and warm. And I remember having this feeling that I knew that one day that I'd be up on that stage performing. And 15 years later, I was performing what would become one of many sold-out shows here at what's now the Chrysler Theater. It was definitely kind of a road marker as far as the story of how I became Etienne.
How can I motivate my harder to reach grade 7s, 8s, 9s? How many of you will agree that that line's actually lower? You have some grade 6s now with the attitude. Oh, you know what I'm talking about. Kid straggles in, sits down, puts the feet up on the desk, and goes, "French sucks." If they're bold enough, "You suck." Of course, that's completely a dramatization that never happens in any classroom scene. No.
I first came across Etienne's music at a languages workshop about 14 years ago, where the presenter had all of us teachers singing and dancing along to a song called La Salle de Classe. Seeing the fun and the potential from his music, our school then decided to take our Year 10 students to his concert in Wellington, and they all really loved being able to sing along with Etienne and other students learning French.
I remember when I first met Etienne, it was at an OMLTA conference, and he was performing. I didn't know it, I didn't see it listed anywhere on the itinerary or program schedule, but he was performing during the lunch portion while the conference attendees were sitting and relaxing. And I just thought it was the coolest thing, because here was this guy who was a teacher, and he was obviously dedicated to his profession, he was dedicated to his students, and he had skills that I couldn't even possibly imagine having myself. And he had created such wonderful things for us to use in the classroom with our students and to help keep them engaged and keep them interested and keep them moving forward in learning French. So I thought that was so fabulous.
To this day, I often have my graduates come back and visit and thank me for introducing them to French music that they sing in their heads for fun because the choruses are super catchy, as well as to help them with their tests and exams. Naturally, I take all the credit for being an awesome teacher, but secretly I have Etienne to thank too.
This is the thing. I loved doing the school shows. Looking back on the school show days, the schools would decorate their walls with the signs and of the songs or Etienne things or just the names of their school. I love doing the school shows. There's something really intimate about the school shows and getting to sign autographs and meet the students. And sometimes I would go back to their classrooms after and answer questions and provide that opportunity for them to ask whatever questions they want to ask, basically.
I met Etienne first at an OMLTA conference probably about 6 or 7 years ago, and he, as a workshop, was giving a concert. And so everyone filed in, and my girlfriends and I had no idea what to expect. And when he started singing and playing and introducing himself, we became like crazed teenagers at a Justin Bieber concert. We were insane, and we're in our 20s and 30s, and we're adults, and we're just going crazy for Etienne and everything he's singing, and we're cheering and we're dancing and we're standing on chairs. And they handed out tattoos, and at the time they were, I think, the yellow triangles, if I remember. And he said that if he saw us throughout the conference with the tattoos visible, we would get a prize, or we would get something. And so my girlfriends and I took that to task, and we put them on our foreheads. And so we walked around for 2 or 3 days of the conference with tattoos on our foreheads, and we ended up getting PTF t-shirts, and Etienne signed them, and we just spent the weekend like groupies, just following him around everywhere he went and talking to him, and do you remember us?
And what is an energetic, contagious way to get my students so excited about coming to French that they'll be begging to stay and learn more? No, miss, I don't want to go to gym. I want to stay and learn more with you.
The other thing that we did was fabulous when Etienne came to Perth was he ran a workshop for teachers. So we spent time with him. We learned about his philosophy. We had a bit of fun, and we came away with a little package of more things to do in our classrooms. So it was very, very useful. And of course, he's talking maybe about coming again. So that's amazing, because a new bunch of kids who've never experienced Etienne will actually be able to join in and sing and dance and have fun with him too. So really looking forward to that if that ever happens.
I use the Etienne songs in my core French classroom, and I've had grade 9 students come back to me and tell me that they love that I've done that for them because it helped them so much once they got to grade 9 French. As well, I love using the DJ Delph kit. I have a couple of boys in grade 6 and 7 who are not fans of French, but I used 2 of the units this past year. And on the last day of school, I was in their classroom, and they were writing on the board song requests, and the one boy put up that he wanted to hear Ma Journée Typique, and the other one was wanting to hear a Faisons du Shopping. So I'm so excited that they were into the French and wanting to learn. And finally, for my evaluation one year, I was doing a Suivez mes directions unit, and the principal came to watch my students run an amazing race type activity outside. And when he came back into my classroom, I put the song on, and my grade 7 and 8 boys were singing along to the song, which was so exciting to see.
So it was just a lot of fun, and I think if you can, as an educator, as a performer, get a group of adults that excited about teaching and singing and having fun, then that, to me, that tells me that this is really a valuable tool for the kids in my class, and it can get them as equally excited, and it kind of makes them see me a little more human when I tell this story to them and they see me, you know, as this crazy teenager. It gives them some insight into who I am as well. So it's really an all-around crazy effective tool.
Teachers conferences, let me tell you, a lot of people, they say, you know, what's your favorite part about getting to be ATN and stuff like that? Is it the concerts or the music? And it is. I love doing concerts. I love writing music and recording. But secretly, one thing that I really love to do is attend the teachers conferences. The teachers conferences are their way of re-energizing and getting together with like-minded people. And I feed a lot off of the energy that I get from teachers, and get a lot of great ideas from teachers. But just it's fantastic. And when the music first came out, I started to get invited to more and more teachers conferences, and I've had amazing times. I've been able to do keynote addresses, workshops, and sessions now literally all over the world at national conferences, state or provincial conferences, and even regional conferences for district school boards. And every chance I get, I love to get together with the teachers and share ideas and resources.
As a core French teacher for 25 years, I've been using Etienne's materials, products, and freebies that he puts out, and my kids thoroughly enjoy them. But what I appreciate most is his generosity, because he puts out so many free things. And so I've said to him before, you are the Mother Teresa of French teachers, because he just keeps giving and giving and giving and really doesn't get as much in return for what he puts out. And I am very grateful for that.
Okay. This is interesting because this is the very first tape. So after that meeting with Elaine Marentet, and the teachers were like, oh, you know, we'd like to get a copy of that music. For all my colleagues, basically that's what I did. I went home and I got these TDK tapes from Canadian Tire, and I put the only 5 songs that I had, and I recorded them and put them onto these tapes, and I kept duplicating them. But what happened was they told their friends, and their friends told their friends, and we were getting entire orders from boards of education who were asking for ordering like 100 of them for all their teachers, and they wanted these cassettes and they wanted activity sheets. So this is actually the very first activity book that we created, and as you can see, there's only 5 songs, but I created these activity sheets for the teachers to follow along. You can see this was actually typed out on a typewriter, kids. I don't know if you know what a typewriter is, but this was typed out on the typewriter, photocopied, and made into books. So basically, people ask me, you know, what's your keys to success? And I attribute it to 3 things. First of all is my faith in God. I'm a faith-based person, and that's first and foremost foundational to my life. I do believe that this is what I was, I guess, called to do, or this is my raison d'être, if you want to say it. It certainly wasn't what I thought I was going to be doing with my life, but it is, and I trust God, and it's been an amazing journey. Second of all is my family. My wife, God bless her, I love her so much. Right from the beginning, she has been supportive. She is my backbone. She is the one who supports me. And just right from the beginning, she was the one who, when I started to do school concerts back in 1993, I think it was, that far back, she was the one, she made these big prop boxes that I would have take with me on tour when I was going to do school shows. And these big boxes, they would spin around while I was performing on stage. And then she continued to support me throughout all the trips to the studio, making albums, the tours all over, all the traveling and everything like that. She was always supportive. Our
children, it's been fantastic because they've got to grow up with the music of ATN, but also the entire experience of traveling the world, doing tours in Australia, New Zealand. We've been to China, we've been all over the place. And now our son Nathan, he is actually Nate Vedette, the very popular artist that goes around doing school shows with DJ Delph and Guitarist and Mike Music. And
as a kid, my dad used to take us to trips. I remember going as a kid to Australia and New Zealand actually for like a month or so, and my dad played a few shows down there, and we got to explore the country. And it was kind of at that point that I realized how far the word of ATN had spread, and it's pretty crazy to think about. It just started locally in Windsor, and then it blew up to this worldwide sensation. And now, myself getting to travel with DJ Delph and Mike Music and Guitarist and ATN, and playing shows, all over the country. It's so crazy how the kids, he's not just some hometown hero. He's just as iconic out in Grand Prairie or, out in God knows where. He's just as iconic there as he is here. And it's so cool because the kids are so pumped up. They're so revved up to see, all the songs performed live. They know all the words. They're, chanting, they're screaming for us to play, their favorite song. And it's so cool because no matter where we go, no matter, what country we're in or what part of the world we are, all the kids have such an amazing reaction to the music and they genuinely love it. And it's just it's so cool to see. It's just like this massive community almost, where everyone is just so happy to be jamming out to ATN songs. So it's really cool to see the impact that's been spread worldwide.
And it is fantastic when I get to have him perform live on stage with me. We absolutely have a blast. Our daughter, Sophie, she is an amazing photographer, videographer. She takes great pictures, does amazing editing, does a lot of really cool things for different projects that we do with the whole ATN and the DJ Delph thing. So it's a really family thing.
He's constantly coming up with new things, like now the DJ Delph, to keep reimagining himself to be relevant for teachers.
DJ Delph.
So DJ Delph in 2014 is when DJ Delph came about, and the difference between DJ Delph and ATN is basically ATN is the kind of your flashy songs to cover, grammar or vocab, something for the students to learn and stick in their heads. And DJ Delph music is completely different. DJ Delph, the program, everything is about living French in order to learn French, basically.
They love their music portions of it, and they love how it's always new and how the students are really truly engaged when you use the DJ Delph kit in your teaching.
I just think he's a wonderful asset in terms of helping make their job easier and making learning a language more fun as well as effective.
So those songs are complete songs. Real songs about experiences that the DJ Delph does, whether going to a restaurant or going to the studio, living his daily life, whatever it is.
Bonjour mes amis, et bienvenue. Je m'appelle DJ Delph. C'est le temps de lire, écrire, écouter, et parler. Soyez prêts pour le sujet du jour.
And that's kind of where I came into play. We worked together to, promote and work on the music and stuff like that. And after releasing it, he did a lot of the ATN shows, and eventually it got to the point where, since he's a full-time teacher, I would get sent with another French musician, whether it was Guitarist, Nate Vedette, Mike Music. We would go out and we would do these smaller school shows as opposed to the big theater shows that ATN does.
completely different concept. Styles of music are absolutely different as well, whereas DJ Delph is more electronic based, where your ATN has the more, rock and rap mix and things like that.
It's been a real treat working with Etienne. In my music career, the way that it was going before meeting him, I didn't think I'd have a chance to work with this French educational award-winning producer.
Back in the day, the whole awards thing is interesting because it's something that I was never interested in, but my publicist, Sherry, she said that it's an important part of not just for the educational world, but for the music industry, as far as kind of legitimizing the music, if you would. So she was the one who always insisted on doing those types of things and putting in the albums in for awards or whatever. So I know I was nominated 4 times for the category of Artist of the Year.
Honestly, it's been some of the best experiences and best times that I've had in terms of playing and recording and writing music. And just working with him, I could see right from the get-go just like how passionate he was and how much of himself he pours into the music. With him, everything has a purpose. And whether it's writing melodies or writing the lyrics to get the grammar concepts through, just everything that he does is meticulous, and the amount of passion and energy that he puts into it is astounding. There's never a point where it seems like he's just kind of going through the motions. He truly lives and breathes the music and this lifestyle.
People go, did your life turn out the way you thought of or were hoping as a kid or whatever? I think the one thing I've learned is that I think God has a very funny sense of humor, because a couple things. One, I remember swearing to my friend Shelley in grade 11 that I would never become a teacher, and I became a teacher. And growing up as a kid, I wanted to be this big metal rock star type thing or whatever. And again, funny sense of humor, because I did end up touring the world and doing albums and doing all those wonderful things, but basically singing songs about learning languages. So it's kind of just kind of funny how it worked out, but I wouldn't trade it for anything.
I'm sorry.
I would have never known. Seriously?
Yeah. I had heard of Etienne, and I knew kind of sort of what he did, but I didn't really realize how big it was, because I went to a full French school and it was a little different there. And then I meet him and I'm thinking, that works really great. He uses music to teach French, and I teach music in French. And he's showing me all this other stuff he does. It's not just concerts, it's not just music. He's making resources, he's publishing books, he's making posters and t-shirts, all French related stuff. Écoutez les clochettes du joyeux temps des fêtes. We ended up working together, and it's been a lot of fun so far. I'm learning a lot about the way he writes music and his wording when he's writing lyrics, that if you're really listening to them, it's like he's tricking kids to learn how to speak French properly, and it's been pretty cool, and I've really enjoyed it so far.
I think looking back at the milestones in the career, to me, they're more personal milestones. To me, it's experiencing new countries, new people, stepping off a plane for the first time in a new country is exciting. That's to me, that's more important than, say, like winning awards or anything like that. There was a time when we were winning awards and things like that, and a lot of people would see those things as milestones. But for me, that was always just like the business side of things, where it was kind of a means to an end, things that you kind of had to do, or at least I was told that's what you're supposed to do type thing. To me, it's the people that you meet, it's the places that you get to go to, the experiences that you have, and the memories, basically.
Playing with Etienne is actually, I feel like some people would be embarrassed playing with their dad, and I think the concept of it kind of was at first, But when I actually stepped out on the stage and I saw how, you know, how he commands the crowds, how everyone's attention is just drawn to him. You know, he captures like your attention just from the entire show. He really controls the crowd so well. His enthusiasm is absolutely infectious. You know, the way he, you know, just gets everyone jumping and singing and dancing. That's pretty special, man. It takes a lot of talent to work a crowd like that. And it's just so much fun. You know, whenever we're playing shows with Etienne, it's an absolute blast. It rubs off on us. And, you know, it reminds me of, you know, the Metallica cycle, where I think one of the Metallica members was saying how, you know, they give out energy from their music to the crowd and the crowd gives it back to them. And it's just like that. I mean, as soon as, you know, we hit the stage, you know, the crowd is feeding us tons of positive energy and they're going nuts. And then we feed off of that and we get amped up. And, you know, with my dad on stage, like, he pumps us up even more, you know, because he feeds off of that, like, a lot. And he gets super into it, and then we get really into it, and then which in turn makes everyone else in the crowd get more into it. And it's just this awesome cycle of everyone enjoying the music like 10 times as much, because the live experience is so cool. And just listening to a CD in class can't ever replicate the feeling of being there in concert, jumping up and down and screaming and singing along. It's pretty cool, man. You just have to be there to experience it.
There's a lot of stuff, cards, mostly press clippings, things that teachers have done, you know, and not just in English. And that's another thing too. So you know, we get a lot of press from the French magazines, newspapers, and radio and TV and stuff like that. But I think what's cool is the press that we get from the English stream, and that's great because that's basically what our message is. Our message is exciting students for French or for Spanish, and the generally English-speaking students, which is really fantastic. And it's great that the press gives us that coverage so that we can spread that message. So looking towards, say, the next 25 years, I see more collaboration for sure. I think we have a new album coming out, Etienne 25, and it's going to be basically, that was a cool project. Basically, we had, with our social media, we polled all the teacher, students, fans and said, what's your favorite Etienne songs? There was like 130 to choose from, basically. And they pared them down to the top 15, and then we had people vote on the top 9. And we took those top 9 and we remade them with artists DJ Delph, Nate Fedette, Mike Music. We had special guests, guitarist. We had special guests Janice Richardson on harp, which is a secret on one of the songs. And it was a great collaboration. So we remade 9 Etienne favorites that were voted on by the fans. And then we made a new song called Être deux. So that's coming out, and with brand new videos and everything like that. So basically, I mean, I will keep doing concerts. I'll do concerts as Etienne for areas that need Etienne concerts or want an Etienne concert, but I will be definitely focusing more now on new. I won't be making any more material as Etienne. We'll just be moving forward with the band and doing those kind of projects, and I hope to be basically revisiting some of my friends from all over the world, but with the band and with this new objective of again, like I said, Franco-focused music and celebrating the French language and culture. So we're going to be doing a lot of old French classics, but to a much more modernized style, and doing a lot of original material as well. So it's humbling. Being Etienne is humbling. It's humbling to be able to share your passion with people from literally all over the world, and to look back on something like this and to see the humble beginnings. I'm still humbled. I'm still humbled by the reception that the music gets, the reaction of the kids in the crowds at the concerts. It's crazy. I have no idea what else is in here.
I want to say congratulations, Etienne, for 24 years of unwavering commitment to making language learning awesome with your music. Thanks so much for your joy.
I've known Etienne for over 25 years when he was a young, talented musician. He still is. He will continue to be this great talent in Canada and around the world. And I would love to see Etienne performing well into his 50s, 60s, 70s, and beyond. Because Etienne makes French fun, he makes it real, and keep working even past retirement, Etienne.
So it's been a wonderful ride, and it still continues, and I'm delighted to see that Etienne still looks as youthful and enthusiastic as ever. So good luck.
All I can say is Iti Pora, Etienne. Bravo! Chapeau.
Alors, les filles néo-zélandaises pour Etienne. Allez!
Je vais, tu vas, il va. Elle va, nous allons, vous allez, ils vont, elles vont.
I'm so proud of what Steve has accomplished thus far in his career, and I know that teachers and students around the world are benefiting from his love of music, his love of language, and his ability to help students learn through music. I know that this will be a benefit to teachers and students around the world for years to come.
Oh, I can't remember the award. It was a kids' educational something. I'm sorry, I can't remember my first thing. I got a really good memory, it's just short. Etienne asked me to go and accept the award on his behalf, and I'll tell you, what a fun night that was. Thank you, Etienne, for allowing me to accept on your behalf. We had a fabulous night, by the way.
And a massive thank you to Etienne. You really inspired me and influenced my life in a positive way through French rapping. Who would have thought?
I do want to say thank you, Etienne, for allowing me to participate in the phenomenal career of Etienne.
Au revoir.
G-A-I-Q-A-A-S, il a, elle a. Nous avons, vous avez, il, elle, O-N-T.
Alors Etienne, bonne continuation et merci beaucoup pour tout ce que vous avez fait pour moi et mes élèves. Au revoir.
Box of memorabilia from over 25 years. Watch your step, otherwise there'll be no documentary. So come with me. And watch your step, otherwise there'll be no documentary. All right, come this way. Watch your step, otherwise there'll be no documentary. All right.